Katherine Legge will attempt to qualify for the Indianapolis 500 in a fourth Rahal Letterman Lanigan racing car. It's a bit of a surprising announcement. I know how I felt when I heard it. But the most important question is, does this entry mean that we will have bumping at the Indianapolis 500 for the first time in 2 years? We'll try to answer that question and much more in this video. All right, so a fourth Rahal entry for this year's Indianapolis 500 is only slightly surprising, and here's why. Marshall Pruitt was the first person to report that a fourth Rahal entry was in the works at all, and that they had approached drivers like Tony Kanaan and Ryan Hunter-Reay to drive it. However, recently, I had heard that Honda had said no to a fourth Rahal entry. The frontrunner had been, at the time, Ryan Hunter-Reay. So what has changed? Enter Katherine Legge. I told you guys last year that Honda had been actively working behind the scenes to get Katherine Legge into the 2022 race, and that the mythical 18th Honda engine was reserved for her and her alone. The thing was, there wasn't a team willing or able to put together a program to run her. That has changed this year, and it makes me wonder a few things. Obviously, this was a Honda call, as we know, and what I'm going to say is meant no offense to Katherine Legge, because she's a very capable driver and has been damn quick at times at IMS with very little practice. In fact, this is going to be the first time she's ever had really a full week of practice, and she's going to get to run the test day in April. So there's really, this is going to be Katherine Legge's best opportunity at the Indianapolis 500 by far. But when you, as Rahal Letterman Lanigan, wanted to do a fourth car and you could possibly get a driver who is absolutely capable of winning the race, and certainly with Ryan Hunter-Reay, who was at one point the front runner for this seat, why would you choose Katherine? For whatever reason, Honda chose to say no to a fourth Rahal car for any other driver than Katherine Legge. But unlike last year, Rahal chose to greenlight this program anyway. That was something that no team was willing to do last year. This would bring the total, if there's only 33 cars, to 17 Hondas and 16 Chevys in the field. Now, this is my read on the situation, and it needs to be made very clear that I am openly speculating here, because at the end of the day, we're never actually going to get like an official answer on any of this stuff. But I feel that this is why Katherine Legge is in a fourth Rahal car for the Indianapolis 500, why both Honda and Rahal decided to go forward with this particular program. I think that both the team and the manufacturer believe that there will only be 33 cars on the entry list for the Indianapolis 500, because that's a huge insurance plan for both Honda, who currently, as things stand, if there were only 33 cars, would be the manufacturer that not only gets the field to that 33 number, but would be the majority, I guess we'll say, stakeholder between the two manufacturers at the Indianapolis 500. So if Honda facilitated more entries past this point, let's say they go and use that mythical 18th engine, they would run a very high risk of bumping themselves. Now, Rahal has made a lot of engineering changes over the offseason, and we don't really know what they're going to look like on the superspeedways until we get to Texas. But the facts as they currently stand are, the Rahal team last year had a struggle in qualifying. 2 of their 3 cars were on the back row, and none of them were particularly competitive in the race. If there was a bumping situation, just looking at the things as they currently stand, the Rahal team would be one of the teams that I would look at as one that would be at risk to have a car go home. And if it was another car, let's say another Honda car that Honda allowed to have an engine, have an entry, that potentially could put Honda at risk. So Rahal wanted to do a fourth car. The series needs the field to be filled, and they need it to be filled earlier than it was last year, because I think everybody knows how embarrassing the scramble to fill the field was last year and how much effort had to go in just to marrying all those partners together the Cusick Motorsports side, the AJ Foyt side, and the Dragon Speed side to get all those guys together and in a slightly happy marriage to actually put that car onto the grid. It was a monumental effort, but it was also embarrassing. Honda, I would think, would want assurances if they're going to fill the field that there's probably not going to be a very high possibility that one of their cars will go home. It sucks that this is kind of how it is, but that's how I feel about it. It helps the series, it helps Rahal, and it gets Honda a driver into the field that they've been trying to get into the field for the last couple of years. Now, how do we get to that 33 number? Because by my calculations, there's still one seat that we have a pretty good idea is going to be there that has yet to be announced, and only one. And potentially everybody who doesn't have a ride right now is going to be going for that one seat. But once we go through the 33, I'm going to talk about the other possibilities that could get us past 33 and potentially still have a real bump day. So, the 33 cars are as follows, entered in the Indianapolis 500. Team Penske, very, very easy. 3 cars, Newgarden, McLaughlin, and Power. Ganassi, Marcus Ericsson, Scott Dixon, Alex Palou, and you heard it here first, recently confirmed Takuma Sato. I think that's a car-driver combination to watch. Andretti Autosport, Colton Herta, Kyle Kirkwood, Romain Grosjean, Devlin DeFrancesco, and Marco Andretti. Aero McLaren SP, or as we now call it, Aero McLaren. Pato Award, Felix Rosenquist, Alexander Rossi, and joining the team for the first time this year, Tony Kanaan. Ed Carpenter Racing. 3 cars as of right now. Asterisk applied. Connor Daly, Rinus VeeKay, and Ed Carpenter. The Rahal team, of course, in the headlines today. Graham Rahal, Jack Harvey, Christian Lundgaard, and now Katherine Legge fills out that roster. Meyer Shank Racing. Simon Pagenaud, Elio Castroneves. Dale Coyne Racing. David Malukas, and Stingray Robb, a rookie. AJ Foyt Racing. Santino Ferrucci, and Benjamin Peterson, another rookie. Juncos Hollinger Racing. You have Callum Ilott returning, and Augustine Canapino, another rookie. Brian Reinbold Racing. You were here on this channel when Stefan Wilson and Cusick Motorsports announced their partnership with Dreyer Reinbold for this year's Indianapolis 500. And as of right now, there's a big to be announced next to the second car from Dreyer Reinbold Racing. And there's going to be a lot of speculation between now and whenever they announce this car about exactly who it is. Now, I've asked around, and obviously there's a lot of names thrown around because there's the usual suspects, as you guys know, and there's people who have equipment. There's guys like R.C. Anderson. Gabby Chavez has been sniffing around for quite a while. There's 2 names that I've heard, and I trust the source on this one, so I feel pretty confident that these are 2 names that potentially we're going to see when this all shakes out at the end of whenever Dreyer Reinbold decides to actually announce this program. I think Juan Pablo Montoya is a possibility, and I think, if you think about it, he is heavily associated with Dragon Speed, and let's say Dreyer Reinbold needs some extra crew. I wouldn't be surprised to see Dragon Speed come in and crew that car. The other possibility, and it's an obvious one because he's driven for the team several times before, would be J.R. Hildebrand. Oftentimes he has a lot of sponsorship. He probably has less sponsorship this year than he has had in the past, but I wouldn't be surprised if, say, for example, Salesforce came back. The team likes J.R. Hildebrand, and he's a very good setup driver at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Considering the fact that Ryan Hunter-Reay is now available, I would be surprised if a phone call has not been made from the Dreyer Reinbold camp to Ryan Hunter-Reay. But I think much like Kyle Larson, who was a possibility at one point for Dreyer Reinbold this year, I wonder if Ryan Hunter-Reay would look at that team as one that can win the race. I've asked Ryan this before, and Ryan has said, look, any team that I would sign with for the Indianapolis 500 has to be a team that can win the race. And so when and if you're Ryan Hunter-Reay, you really have nothing else to prove if you're jumping into the Indianapolis 500, you want to be in the Fast 9 and you want to be racing for the win. Now, I think, again, Dreyer Reinbold Racing is a competitive team. They're clearly a top 10 team, and frankly, I think they're one superstar driver away from being able to challenge that Fast 9 potentially for the win. And Ryan Hunter-Reay would fit that bill. Juan Pablo Montoya would fit that bill. J.R. Hildebrand has done very serviceable work for A.J. Foyt Racing over the last couple of years. The fifth Ganassi car, Jimmie Johnson. I think there's really no other option. Maybe Ryan Hunter-Reay, I guess you could say, but I would be very surprised if Honda said no to Ryan Hunter-Reay at Rahal. They probably are not going to say yes to him at Ganassi. Now, I'm happy to be proven wrong, but that's the tea leaves as I read them. Jimmie Johnson at Ganassi, I wonder. Because would he be a special enough case for Honda to risk bumping out one of their own cars? Would he be worthy of the 18th Honda? Let's say worst case scenario. Bump day comes around and Jimmie Johnson bumps Katherine Legge out of the field. How does Honda feel about that? Let's honestly ask ourselves that. And I think that probably gives you the answer of whether or not Jimmie Johnson's going to get an engine to race the Indy 500 this year. A.J. Foyt Racing. You can never count out a third engine or a third team from A.J. Foyt Racing. Now, they have pretty strongly said that they do not want to do a third car. They are happy with two. I do know that Larry Foyt kind of mentioned offhandedly that, hey, if JR could come up with money, we'd be happy to run a third car for him. So maybe that's somewhere where another entry could come from. A 34th or 35th would be A.J. Foyt with J.R. Hildebrand. But a lot of the resources that they had to do a third and fourth car in the past have gone into Santino Ferrucci's program, not only to hire him, but to also hire Michael Cannon away from Chip Ganassi Racing. And that potentially could mean huge dividends for the Foyt team because Michael Cannon was one of the major factors in Scott Dixon's huge 234-mile-an-hour laps at Ganassi. The final option, and this is a real long shot, and it potentially could end up being the Dreyer Reinbold team anyway, so it might not be an additional entry, but Paretta Autosport. Now, why would Paretta Autosport be a potential entry, especially since things have seemingly gone so quiet with them? I wonder if Honda has pushed so hard for a female entry in the Indianapolis 500, and I know for a fact that Chevrolet is extremely invested in Paretta Autosport. They want that to succeed, and they're very interested in that program. I wonder if they see Honda doing this and say, well, wait a second, why don't we have a female entry in the Indianapolis 500? So I think there's a potential there that could bear an extra entry. But I think it could also be, well, that's the second Dreyer Reinbold entry. So I hate that we have to talk about this every year. And I guess we have to get used to it because it's very clear at this point that nothing is going to change anytime soon or very fast in IndyCar. I guess I'm thankful that at least for now we still have a week of practice in the Indianapolis 500. We haven't just completely thrown that tradition out of the window. But I think, the further down the line, and I hate to be pessimistic about this, things like a week of practice when you haven't technically innovated the cars in a while, when are the teams going to start bitching about that? And when are they going to start cutting more days out of May? I don't know. And so hopefully, I'm just being a doomer in cold, windy February, and we'll have 34, 35, 36 cars entered in the Indy 500, and we'll have a fun May. May is always fun, but we'll have an extra fun May because we'll have the excitement and drama of Bump Day. But as things currently stand and reading the tea leaves, I don't think so. So thank you guys so much for watching. Big week next week. Big Daytona 500 Speed Week podcast on Monday at 8 p.m. And I'll see you in the next video.